What's up, YouTube? It's your girl Becca Doll back in the Kizar, because you know, if you watch my videos, you know why. Anyways, I'm headed up to Atlanta to slang some drinks tonight. It's gonna be super litty. The city's already lit because we won the World Series. They shut down the schools today, had a parade, everybody's been celebrating, so I am excited. And I'm not usually excited to go bartend because I hate working for someone else. I love doing business. I love creating content. Obviously I love talking. I can like never shut up, but I'm so over the nightlife industry, which brings me to the point of this video, sorta. So I have been working off and on in the nightlife, bars, clubs, stuff like that, restaurants, since I was 14. I started bartending in Buckhead when I was 16. 14 I started it, maybe not 14, maybe I was 15, I don't know. At some point I was young and I started as a hostess at Hooters. So when I recorded one of my videos, my mom was like, but you weren't in the streets your whole life. You're right, I was not in the streets my whole life, so I thought I would come through and tell you a little bit about my story. Y'all ready for this? Anyways, it's gonna be good. So my birthday is New Year's Day. I was born in Virginia Beach, and I was adopted by the nurse in the hospital. So she had never worked that floor of the nursery before, and she got called into work and she saw me and she just knew. It took them 3 days. She took me home. It was like $75. Like, that would never happen these days, but you know, like Becca Doll's a grandma. Not really, but I'm getting on up there. Getting on up there. I am. So that is like in itself just a really unique story. And I did meet my birth family. So what's really cool is my birth mom had left me her full name, her social security numbers, as well as her siblings. And I always knew I was adopted. There was never like a point in time where my parents like sat me down and it was like some surprise news, which I think was really like worked for me well, because I don't ever remember not knowing. But I did always want to know where I came from. I had a huge chip on my shoulder as a kid, as a teenager. You know, teenagers go through this phase where everything's greener on the other side. If I had those parents, or if blah blah blah, or if this was the circumstances, whatever it may be, they think it would just like be better. So I always thought, you know, if I lived with my birth mom, everything would be so much better. I met them and it turns out that probably wasn't the case. I'm very grateful I was adopted, and I'll tell you more about all that at some point in time. So I get adopted, and I was a handful. My parents were not ready for someone like me whatsoever. And like I said, I had a lot of issues with being adopted, and I have an older brother. So at some point, it became like where my brother was having, you know, his issues, going through his teenage years. I'm coming up behind him, and it was a very stressful, it became a very stressful upbringing. The household was just extremely tense. I don't want to go into too much details because I love my parents very much. We have been through a lot together, and I respect them, and you know, I just don't want to say anything on here that I don't think that they would be or they're ready to share, because this is me sharing my story. Anyways, my life was not horrible. I was not kicked out on the streets. I never went through foster care, none of that. But I was a really bad teenager. And whoa, the phone fell. Sorry, Ryle. I have to probably edit that. So I started getting into trouble, and allegedly, you know, started hustling and experimenting with drugs and all that kind of stuff. And I got around the wrong crowd. I never got in trouble, ever. for any of that, thank goodness. The dear Lord had his hands on me through everything. But I started hanging out with a group of people that were older than me. And about my junior year in high school, I started like not really coming home. I'd be up all night partying, I'd be up all night selling, whatever. And then I made my way up to the city of Atlanta. And I was always out in the bars and clubs. If you know me when I was younger, you know this face hadn't changed too much. Thank you, Jesus. So, but I always looked much older than what I was. So I, with fake IDs and just who I knew and who I was, could move around and get in and out of all the bars, clubs, raves, everything in Atlanta. And thank goodness I was as young as I was, because I didn't lose anything. I didn't mess my life up. And one day when I woke up and said, I don't want to do this anymore, and I stopped and I changed my life, and I didn't struggle how some people do struggle with addiction. If anything, I've always just been addicted to that money, that fast paper for sure. But one day they asked me to like pass out flyers. So in Atlanta, in Buckhead back in the day, they used to have like a string of bars, almost like New Orleans on Bourbon Street or whatever. It was almost like that. Oh, let me fix this. And I would like walk around and pass out flyers. And then one day somebody asked me to work the beer tub, and I worked the beer tub. And then to be a shooter girl, you know, walk around with shot trays. So I did that. And then a bartender had called out, so they just threw me behind the bar, and I literally just taught myself. And it was over with from there. And I continued to bartend and stay in that industry for many years to come. So no, I wasn't raised in the streets, but I by choice grew up in the streets. I ended up moving to Atlanta when I was the summer before I was supposed to be a senior in high school, and I just never went back to school. I had a boyfriend that was much older than me, and we met, and I never left. I just kind of stayed with him, and he actually is the one that taught me a lot about business, even though we weren't really on a positive page at that time, because we were still, you know, very much in the drug world at that time. But we still did business. But yeah, it's a little bit of the beginning of my story. So if you want to know more and you like videos like this, subscribe to my channel, turn on the notifications, and hit the like button. Peace.